This is Chuck and Mike at Team 603.
We're headed back to Baja this year, 2024, starting in Ensenada, Mexico, April 28th. Going to end up in San Jose del Cabo on May 3rd for the finish. 1,300-mile race, 1,000 miles through the desert.
Last year, 280 started. We came in 56th and out of about 110 that actually finished. We've done a few modifications, hopefully to help us out this year. We've upgraded our shocks. We've located the rear tire. We've taken it off the back deck and put it in the rear of the car, so we'll have visibility in the back of the car. And hopefully, our new Garmin setup will give us a lot more detailed mapping information and GPS.
We'd like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, our platinum sponsor, Coyote Tractor, also Napa Auto Parts at Conway. We also have Profile Power Sports and Sutton Luxury Limousine, Croce Communications, Lucky Gunner Garage, amongst many others, Norcross Mobile Repair. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Team 603NH. You can follow us during the race at ConwayDailySun.com or Daily in the paper, and also Mount Washington Valley Vibe at the end. And you can follow us during the race on Nora.com, which is Nora TV tab. Click it and follow Team 603.
We'll see you there.
I'm Terry Levitt for the Conway Sun, and I'm here with Chuck Sutton and Mike Petell of Team 603, and they're getting ready to head back to the Baja for the Mexican 1000. Welcome, guys.
Hey. Nice to be here.
You must be excited.
Extremely. Yeah.
So this is your second trip to Baja. This is your third trip. Is that correct?
Fourth.
Your fourth.
Yep.
But this is your second trip together with your own race vehicle. And
Correct.
What do we call that? A buggy?
Yep. It's a side-by-side. It's a
Side-by-side.
Maverick X3. Yep.
Okay. Last year you did pretty well in the Mexican 1000. Can you tell me about that?
Well, let's see, 288 started, and we came in 56th. Yeah, I think 110 finished. So,
yep. 11th in our division, I think, which was good. We were shooting for right around there.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
And so with so few people finishing, that must be especially good for your very first time with your own team. Yes.
Mm-hmm. The whole thing is to finish. That's the big.
Yeah, if you can finish, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, because like half of them don't even finish. So.
Yeah.
Let's see. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about how the race went last year? It was a 4-day race or 5?
5-day.
5-day race last year.
Yep. It starts in Ensenada, Mexico, and goes to San Felipe. Then it goes down to Bay of LA.
Yep.
And then to Loreto. And then La Paz, and then to Cabo. It finishes in Cabo.
Yep.
And this week they've added a day. This year they've added a day.
Yeah, one of the days was 420 miles, and they cut it in half. We're going to have a stop in between.
Yep. So from Bay of LA, last year it was Bay of LA to Loreto, and now they split it up. So they're going Bay of LA to San Ignacio, and then we're going to go to Loreto the next day. So splits it about in half.
Which doesn't, I think it's better having it one day, because that takes a lot of cars out, the 420 miles.
So you think it's better to have split it up?
No, I think it's better for us, because we're younger. And
if they didn't split it. So if they didn't split it, we feel we could have been.
The long day really takes a lot of cars out.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
And we conditioned ourselves last year to handle that long day, and it took out a lot of people. So we were kind of hoping they were going to keep that long day in.
I see.
Yep.
So how do you condition yourself? How do you train for this kind of a race?
A lot of it's mental.
Yeah, try to shed a few pounds.
Yeah, shed a few pounds, change your diet a little bit, and a lot of it is just mental prep. Being out in those elements like that is pretty interesting. Yeah, day after day.
I lost 10 pounds last year in the race. I think you lost 8.
Yeah, I lost 8. Yep. Yeah, all within that 5 days. It's pretty gnarly out there. Yep.
Well, what did you really learn from doing this the first time that's going to help you when you go back?
Our big thing probably is our GPS setup. Last year's GPS was cell based, and the new one is satellite based. So we're gonna essentially, like, after you would leave the cities, you'd be looking at the map at like 30,000 feet. So it wasn't very detailed. Where this new setup, we can zoom right in and see the course better.
We also learned that a stock setup is, our stock setup worked very well for us last year, but we did have some challenges towards the end of every day with our suspension. So we did some upgrades on the suspension, which should take us through to the end of each day's race, to the finish line with minimal issues. So we did some upgrades based on our race last year.
And I understand you have a new trailer, which will allow you to secure some of your stuff. You had trouble with losing some equipment last year.
Yeah, some sticky hands,
Well,
sticky fingers.
well, and we were all looking forward to getting good updates from the race this year.
Yep.
Will
We got
you?
the Starlink connection there, so that'll help.
Yep, for satellite. So that should help us communicate a little bit better. Yep.
Well, that'll be great. Does this trailer mean you can bring more equipment, more tires, more suspension if you have problems?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yep.
Last year we shipped the buggy, so with the company, and we jumped in with another team, their trailer. So we pretty much were limited to whatever we could put in the buggy and ship it. Now we can bring whatever we need. So we brought welders and all kinds of.
Yeah, we maximized our spare tires for the buggy. Last year we had 2, and we probably should have had more than that. So we did get our max, which is 3, and hoping that we don't have to utilize all of them. But yeah, that trailer is helping us bring a lot of necessary equipment to be able to finish this. Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about what your day-to-day routine is when you race. You get up in the morning, and what happens next?
It isn't really the morning, it's more the night when you get there. We go through everything, take all the filters out, blow the car off, clean it up, check for damage, replace tires. Yeah, it's more what we do the night before, because then when we wake up, we want everything to be ready. And if you find anything, you work on it overnight. So.
Okay. So I understand that what do we call it? The happiest race on earth. It's a very celebratory scene for people in Baja.
Yep.
And for the racers and their friends and family who come.
Yep.
Do you get to take part in that, or are you exhausted at the end of the day?
We do a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. It depends on, we had, knock on wood, we had pretty minimal issues with the actual vehicle last year. Now that it's a year older, hopefully it'll still do us well. But
Yep. At the end of the race, the day after, they do have a big celebration for all the racers, everybody that participated, which is really nice. It's a pretty big bash that they put on, and it really is. It's a celebration. Just to be able to start up in Ensenada and finish in Cabo is, it's just, you can't explain the feeling crossing that finish line. So the celebration is nice to have for everybody. Yeah.
And there must be times during the race where you go, we're not gonna get there.
yeah, there were quite a few. We saw
Yeah.
Jesus several times a day.
Yeah, we did.
What was the gnarliest incident in the race
Had
last
to be our
year?
nosedive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what happened there?
You can tell.
So we had just finished a in between stages, they call it. So you end a stage and then you're in what they call in transit, which is pretty much on a highway, and the highway leads you to the start of the next stage for that day. So in those areas of the in transit, there's a speed limit, and usually vehicles pile up a little bit. So once we got done with that and we started the next stage, the vehicle behind us immediately just hit their push to pass button, and well, Chuck didn't like it too much, so he decided to take off and put his foot right to the floor, and We went over some whoops, and we hit one a little too hard for the speed that we were going, and it catapulted the back. So we were literally nose down, looking through the front and straight down to the ground. And he managed to pull us out of it. So once we got pulled out, we pogo sticked around a little bit, and then we pulled off to the side and let him go, and realized that he wasn't even in our division. So we didn't speak two words, during that whole thing. It was just kind of like, wow, did that just happen?
So you ended up nose down.
We were flying through the air.
Yeah, flying through the air like this,
And
at
then
probably 60, 70, something like that.
Yeah, probably.
And then you come down on your front tire first, I hope?
Yeah, so he had mind enough
guess.
to actually accelerate while we're in the air, because the front of those front tires will actually come in contact first.
Okay.
So when that happened, it pulled that front end out and put us back on our tires, all four. But it did, like I said, it did.
So there was
Pogo stick
no
around.
stopping.
Oh, no.
You just kept going,
Yep.
and you were able to,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
to
Took a while to stop.
recover. Okay.
Had to make sure that everything was still intact, and then kept going.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when you do get up in the morning, your car is ready to go,
Yeah.
and you get in it at what time?
It really depends on how we. So they start the race. I mean, a lot of times you don't know what place we're starting. They start you how you finished the day before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
late at
sometimes
night.
it's 9 or 10 o'clock at night that they
Yeah.
let you know what time your start is.
Yeah.
And you have to be there, I think, an hour ahead of time
Okay.
because you get penalized if you're not.
Yeah. They'll give you your exact starting time down to the minute.
And what was your average starting time? 9 o'clock?
8:45-ish, something
Probably,
like
yeah.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And you have to be there, so there's a little travel time.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So they want you staged. It was either 45 minutes or an hour, but they want you no later than that time to get you in line where you're supposed to start, and then they roll you up through in order. Yeah.
Okay. And then once you go, are you just going for like 4 hours, 8 hours, as long as it takes for the day? Do you stop for lunch?
There are certain areas that we have to stop at.
Okay.
We'll stop and meet up our chase truck and refuel,
Yep.
Okay.
get parts.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't stop, unless there's a reason to. Yeah. So you're going unless you have to fuel up or something happens. But other than those reasons for stopping, we're pretty much going.
But you do have to stop to refuel a couple of times every day anyway.
Yep.
And so that 400-mile day, how many hours were you on the road?
Oh boy.
See that? It really depends. You really need to do well on the first day because that's how you start
Yeah.
that day.
Okay.
And it if you start early enough, you can finish in the daylight.
Yeah.
If you start late enough, you finish in the dark.
Yeah.
So
So we were close to 8 hours, weren't we, that day?
we finished in the daylight.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. But we were 7 or 8 hours actually racing that day?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. That 400 miles was a long day. Yeah. Because when you're used to racing 225 miles, in the days prior, you get to that point in mileage where you think or you're used to being done, and then you realize you're pretty much at the halfway point. And it's kind of a reality check. Yep.
And then when you're done that day, you're not done because you have to check out your vehicle,
Yep.
clean it up,
Yep.
make
Yep.
sure it's all right. So that's another
Yep.
A lot of
couple
teams-
hours if everything goes
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
A lot of teams don't get to bed till 3 o'clock, 3 a.m., 2
Yeah.
a.m.
Oh,
Yep.
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 okay. So did you get a chance to drive your vehicle much between last May
I
and,
put about 300 miles on it this summer.
and where do you go? Do you go up to Jericho?
Go up to Jericho, yep. Yep. We went to Maine once. Yeah, it's locally. Yep.
So Jericho has access to like 1,000 miles of trails. And I'm thinking they have a little bit more rules about how fast you go and all that sort of thing up there.
Yep.
Yep.
So it's not quite the same thing,
No,
I
it
guess
isn't.
is my point.
No, it isn't.
No.
It isn't.
And I know you train in gravel pits.
Yep.
Yep.
get to go all out there if you want to.
We kind of, you know, maybe 60, 70%.
Yep.
You don't want to go. We appreciate the opportunity to, you know,
Yep.
test it out there. So
The pit is more of a controlled environment because they don't let everybody in the pit to use it. So you know that there's nobody coming the other way. So you can exercise the buggy a little bit more than you would if you were in the trail systems, especially with the speed limit and not knowing if there's somebody coming up over the next rise. Yeah.
So really, when you're out there in Mexico, it really is a different experience than what you get to do when you're training.
they call Baja races in Mexico the Wild West in racing, because a lot of U.S. races, like the fans are 100 yards back, like they're right on the course. You know, it's kind of a wild.
It's one of the most dangerous races on earth. Yep.
So I have to ask then, what were you thinking? Why choose the most? I mean,
kind of
you
what we've
have
always
not
done.
raced elsewhere.
There's nothing like chasing down a car in the desert at 70, 80, 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
It's fun.
You know, you challenge yourself, you know, thinking that you know, this is going to be a real challenge to be able to start, compete, and finish, and you push yourself. And it was such a feeling last year when we accomplished that, and what was supposed to be a one and done, that's not happening now. No, not with that feeling. It's like every year now, every year. So we're going to get a new buggy next year and condition ourselves a little different.
We had a lot of naysayers too.
Yeah, a lot of people that put us out.
Even the teams that we went down there with, they were like, I got to be honest with you, we had you guys out in the first day or second day?
Yeah, between the first and second day.
Yeah, and there was a group of 5 of us, and I think, 3 of us finished? Yeah.
2 of us finished.
2 of us finished.
No, well, 3, yeah. But 3 of the buggies along the way got knocked out for one reason or another, and then ended up getting back in. One of them had to drop out indefinitely, but the other 2 were lagging back, and us and one other of the 5 we were traveling with finished.
Even the
pretty
owner of the
respectively.
race was impressed.
Yeah, he was.
What did you say to?
Yeah, so I mean, being a pretty stock setup that we had, he actually owns the same type of buggy that we do. And he found out, first of all, where we came from. He said, "You came all the way from New Hampshire." I said, "Yep." And he said, "This is your first race?" I said, "Yep." And he said, "You have pretty much a stock setup." He goes, "Stock brakes?" I said, "Yep." He said, "Seats?" I said, "Stock." "Suspension?" "Stock." "All the suspension arms?" "Stock." He said, "So with all of that being stock, not only did you finish in your first year, but you actually did really good." And I said, yeah. He goes, "That is amazing." So he was pretty impressed.
Nice. And as time goes on, you have upgraded some things.
Yep.
So it's no longer stock suspension, for
Correct.
instance, which you really need better
Well, that
suspension.
opened our eyes to how we could be more competitive. So if we did that well with that setup that we had, just think of what we could do by beefing it up a little bit and making it a little more tolerable. So that's what we did. Our navigation systems are going to be a little more user-friendly, and they're satellite-based. And our suspension hopefully won't thrash us around as much, halfway through the day. So just those 2 things in itself are going to be huge upgrades for us for the race.
We also moved our tire. It was on the back of the slant back on the buggy. We took it and put it underneath the back, so now we can use our rearview mirror, which was really tough with if somebody wanted to pass us, we had to look in the side mirror, and at 70 miles an hour is kind of it was pretty difficult.
Those little things you learn.
So now we'll be able to use the rearview mirror, which will be really helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All these upgrades and all the naysayers, you've also had some yay-sayers, yes? Some people who have supported you both, emotionally and perhaps financially, sponsorships?
Yep.
Like?
Okay, so we have Coyote Tractors is our platinum sponsor. They've really stepped up this year, and they saw how we did last year. They sponsored us last year, but were really impressed. So they doubled their contribution for this year. And then obviously Profile Power Sports and Sutton Luxury Limousine, contributed a lot to that buggy. We've got Napa, Redstone. We've got Norcross Mobile Repair. We've got Cigar Shenanigans too up in Littleton. She's helped us out a little bit. Penny. Boy, we've got a lot more this year. Croce Communications,
Yep.
Granite State Cinematics.
Yep.
What else?
Backwards BMP.
Yep.
They did some powder coating for us.
Yep.
On some of the parts.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. That should be about it. Yep. But they've really stepped up and believed in us, and obviously the Daily Sun for covering this for us, and this has been really, really nice to have the local community and businesses coming together for this kind of event. Yep.
That's fabulous. The race course, do you know, what its point to point is this year. Do you know much about the trail? Does it change a lot from year to year?
It's kind of difficult because they change it every year, and they
Okay.
don't allow us to know the exact course until, is it a week before?
It's less than a week because they pre-ran it last year.
5
Somebody
days?
got in trouble. So it's, a few days before they'll release the route,
Okay.
and then so you can upload it into your systems and everything else.
We know which towns we're staying at so we can get hotel rooms, but we don't know how we're getting there.
Okay.
Yep.
I did go looking online for a map and couldn't find one,
Yeah,
so I
you
thought
won't,
that
you
was
won't find
probably
it for
the thing.
about another week.
Yeah.
Who sets this course? Is it
It's Nora. Nora sets it.
they have someone who's just an expert at setting
I think they've
desert
been,
race courses?
They've been racing down there for so many years that they know, there's big ranches. They know which ones are friendly, which ones will let you go through the property.
Yep.
Which ones don't want you to go through. There's certain areas where you have speed zones that the rancher doesn't want you to exceed 30 miles an hour.
Yep.
And you get penalized if you exceed that.
Yep. We just got notification a couple days ago that they had just finished mapping out the route. So they know what the route is now, but they have not released that to us yet. Yeah.
It's kind of neat because the race, it started, this is the oldest race down there, and they started back, was it the 60s?
1967.
1967.
Yeah,
Yep.
and they started with these manufacturers like Ford and Chevy testing their vehicles, seeing if they could handle the Baja. And you talk to some of the old racers, and they would literally, they'd have a plane flying over, and they would radio them, go left, go right, to make it down the peninsula.
And in those early days, in order to report your times, you literally had to stop and send a telegram. So you stopped and then you went to wherever you needed to go, and you sent a telegram back to record your time. So that had to be interesting.
And how do they do it now?
Now is all through
yeah,
the
we're
Stella
kinda-
system.
Yep.
It's something connected to your machine.
So they have us install, it's a Stella, it's a box, and
Okay.
it has a red button, a blue button, a green button. And when we go up behind another vehicle, if you want to pass it, you hit the blue button. That tells them that you're behind them. It flashes in their vehicle, and they hit the green button, and they're supposed to pull over, and then you pass them. The race association records all this. If they don't hit the green button soon enough, they would get penalized. So a lot of times people will just hit the green button and keep going, and
And we know what happens now
Yeah.
when that happens.
yeah.
We're going to try not to do that this year.
And the red
so
button
the
is
Baja is the amazing place for this because it's fairly unsettled.
Mm-hmm.
It's a desert. You have cactus forests.
Yep.
You have volcanic, sounds like sharp rocks.
Yep.
And lots of sand. And I saw some of your video where you're going over bump after bump after bump in slushy kind of sand
Yep.
with dust in your faces.
Yep.
they're called silt beds.
Yeah.
Silt beds.
Yep.
And it's almost like talcum powder, and it comes out into the car in a wave almost, like
Yep.
water.
It's a very, very, very fine powder. And when you hit it, and you have to stay moving, when you have momentum, you need to keep moving. You can't stop in a silt bed. It reacts just like water.
We're
crazy.
fortunate having four-wheel drive because a lot of the two-wheel drive vehicles will get stuck in it, and they'll end up crashing it, backing up, They say don't get out of your car because somebody will hit you from behind.
Yeah, don't get out of your
Yeah.
car. And then I don't want to forget about the cliffs. You race along the side of cliffs where you can't
The last day
make a
is
mistake.
Last day, there's 2 mountain passes that we have to go over. No guardrails, narrow dirt road with gravel. So as you're going down the backside, if you had to brake hard, that gravel acts like a ball bearing. So you have to be careful. There's nothing holding you away from those cliffs. So you just have to be very mindful.
The only things there are the memorials for people that didn't make it.
That have perished. Yeah. And they're all over the roads. You go up and you go down, and there's these little memorials on the sides of the road.
They
all
put
the way
like
up and
candles
down.
on them, and they little. Yep.
Yeah. It's like, oh, somebody went off there. We might want to be careful.
It's a warning marker as well as a memorial.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly wish you luck in avoiding
Yeah.
any troubles on the course. So when do you leave?
We fly out Thursday the 25th is when we fly out to San Diego. The truck and the trailer with the buggy, that's going to leave this Saturday, so 2 days from now. And that's going to head down to Dallas and pick up one of our teammates and then head over to San Diego and meet us there. Yeah.
All right.
So it's coming right up.
All right. Well, I think. Is there anything else I should have asked you?
No?
I think we covered it all.
Yeah, I
I
think we
think
covered
we
it.
have. I think we have.
Hopefully we have the
And,
same conversation in a few weeks.
Yeah, where you talk about how you've done the impossible and come in first.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah. If we can hit top 10, we'd be happy. So, but finishing is the number one priority.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, good racing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for everything.